There we go.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Welcome to Take Two Radio. I'm Pam, your host. It feels like I haven't done this show in like forever. And with me tonight as my co-host is David. Hello, David.
Hi, Pam. No, I don't think I can't remember the last time we were on together.
Yeah, I know. The last one I did with Sabina, so yeah, it's been a while since you and I have done one. But we are here, and we are very happy to have with us an award-winning director, producer, actress, writer, advocate. She does everything. Cassidy McMillan. Welcome, Cassidy.
Thank you, and thanks for having me on. And I'm also the mom to little kitty cats, so, there you go.
Oh.
just to add to, the list.
Well, I'm mom to a couple of little dogs, but David has cats, so he can go with that one on you.
I am.
Well, yes, and all animals are great, so yeah. I love animals.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Yeah, and I believe you're an advocate for animals too, right?
Absolutely, definitely.
Yeah, for animal rights and that, the environment, and also the bullying. You're on the board of directors for the National Organization Against Bullying, and that's wonderful. I mean, you do so much, and all those causes are close to my heart, as you know, and I can't thank you enough for doing everything that you're doing.
Well, I mean, it's, people like you as well that care about these causes. And, just when you see about things on the news, whether it's an animal being abused or, being held captive or something, like a lot of the SeaWorld controversy going on, or, children being bullied and taking their life due to bullying, I just can't sit by, and I know you can't either. You're an advocate as well, and so I just try to use my independent films to shed light on these important topics. And, of course, right now our film Bullies and Friends, it's a 95-minute documentary film about bullying and teen suicide, known as Bullycide, because it's suicide caused by bullying. And so we're just trying to get the word out of the film and all of that, which we'll talk about.
Yeah, and let me ask you this. I didn't ever hear of the word Bullycide before interviewing you the first time about this. Is that something you came up with, or is that something that's out there?
No, it unfortunately, due to the situation that's going on with children globally, it was a term that came up where it just, became a part of the culture and the language, unfortunately, because of so many children taking their life because of bullying. So, no, I definitely did not come up with it. Unfortunately, it came up through what's going on, like I said, across the globe. I mean, when you think about it, like the Centers for Disease Control has stated that bullying among school-aged children is a major public health problem, and that over the past 10 years, the correlation between bullying-related incidents and then the suicides of children that the bullying is happening to is growing, and it's showing the direct connection between bullying and suicide, also known as bullycides. And so now that's led to the horrible statistic from the Centers for Disease Control that suicide is the third leading cause of death among children, among youth ages 10 to 24. And, that's just something I couldn't sit by and just listen to or hear about. And that's why I, made the personal investment of self-funding, making this film and getting it out there. And, it's having a huge impact at schools and organizations where we've had preview version screenings of it to show to kids due to just tremendous audience demand from schools and conferences and events wanting us to come out and show the film while we were still filming and while we were still in post-production. And, we're just thankful and humbled by the impact it's having on teens in a positive way, and just the kids' quotes about the films and all of that as we do hand out questionnaires at the screenings. And like I said, we're glad the impact the film is having, and we hope that maybe one day that term bullycide won't be used at all.
Exactly. It's not exactly one that you want to be, grow bigger as time goes by, unlike where they come up with the term selfies, when people are taking pictures of themselves. It's a totally opposite thing where you want it to go away. You want it stopped. Yeah. And for these kids to realize that they have somewhere to go to, they have someone to turn to, there's a different way to handle things, and just get all that information out there to prevent all of this from happening to them, as well as getting the information out to the ones that are doing the bullying, and show them, what words can do to another person. It's not like the old days where they used to, have that little nursery rhyme about, sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. It's not like that anymore.
Absolutely. The aggression that some children are having toward others, the bullying that's going on, it's beyond name calling, which is bad enough. But yes, it's threats, it's criminal harassment. If adults did the same type of behavior in the workplace or anywhere in their neighborhood, they could be arrested, for making terrorist threats, for criminal harassment. Yet a lot of the states and in different countries, their juvenile laws just have not caught up to the situation. And many states are trying to address it, but it just, people are trying to put things in place, but all of this is already going on, so the laws just need to catch up with it.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of times they'll just say, those are kids being kids. They really need to get their head out of the sand and realize what's going on in life these days. It's not just kids being kids. There's a lot going on there, and there's a cause and there's a reaction. So they need to get more involved with it instead of just turning a blind eye.
Absolutely. When you think about it, if any of those adults, like who we're talking about here that say, just kids being kids, but if the same thing happened to them, if they were at work and a coworker said to them, hey, after work today in the parking lot, I'm going to beat you up and kill you, right? It would be like, what? Hey, I'm calling the police, or, and
right.
But yet kids are saying this to other kids, saying, hey, after school I'm going to beat you up, hey, I'm going to kill you, we're going to kill you next week. And kids are beating up other kids physically as well, in addition to the psychological and emotional abuse. And yet, we just need to get all adults' knowledge of what is going on really just up to speed with what's happening.
Yeah, another horrible thing, too, that can come out of this is the kids that use it for their so-called 15 minutes of fame by videotaping themselves beating up on somebody, a bunch of girls or one boy and that, and then putting it on YouTube and getting this all out there. And then people think, that, oh, wow, look, this is so cool. Let's go ahead and do this. Oh, my God. Do they not even think of the consequence of what they're doing? It just astounds me.
Right, exactly. And it's not like kids who do this bullying, aggressive behavior, it's not like they're going to magically stop doing this when they turn 18. It's going to flow directly out into wherever they land, the workplace, colleges, wherever. And it really affects society in an enormous way, and it impacts everyone.
Now, do you think, because I know you did a lot of research before you put all of this together for this documentary, do you think that a person is basically born a bully? Do you know what I mean? Like, do they have to be bullied themselves before they become bullies?
That's a great question, and many psychologists and psychiatrists who are more experts in, human behavior, they're still trying to look at that, right? It's the old effect of, is it nature, is it nurture, where are we looking at here? And it really can be both. From my meeting with counselors and educators, as well as like in my film Bullies and Friends, we have a top psychologist, Dr. Michelle Borba, in the film. And with kids, with anyone really, you can either be born with a predisposition to violence or something, genetically, and there's more studies being done on that, as well as definitely if a child is in an abusive household, perhaps they're being physically abused, emotionally, sexually, clearly that is going to come out in their behavior, one of those behaviors which may be bullying, so physical or verbal behavior toward other kids. So like when I speak at schools throughout the United States, as I'm called upon to come out and speak or called upon to do consultations with schools or teachers, I try and tell them, don't just say to the child who's being aggressive, oh, you're bad, you're a bully, go sit in the corner, or you're suspended, or, you're expelled. That's not the answer. The child who's doing the bullying needs counseling to find out what's the root cause of what is happening. Again, do they have a behavioral or mental health issue that needs to be addressed before it gets worse and lead, to a horrific school shooting or suicide or something? And, obviously then the target of the bullying, because I don't call them victims, they're not victims, and the kids who are bullied don't like to be called victims because they've already been abused, but, they kind of feel like the term victim demeans them even more. They were just targeted. And to say that they were a target more clearly defines what's going on, that it is an intentional act, and again, oftentimes borders on or actually is criminal harassment. So to sum up, both children need help and assistance. Obviously the target does, and get them support and help and, stop the bully from targeting them. But the child who's doing that aggressive behavior also needs counseling and to find out what's going on, because they might be getting abused at home or elsewhere, either by another child or by an adult. And like I said,
that's
so
their
it's
way of acting out.
Yeah, so it can come from their environmental situation, or it can come from, a predisposition to a behavior. So both ways.
It's so sad. It's so sad that they both need help. David, you had a question?
Yes, I did. So one of the main reasons you hear as to why the targets take on their own life is because they're ashamed to come to their parents. So how do you feel we can bridge that gap between child and parent so they're not afraid anymore?
Right. That's a great question and great point, and I discuss that at events that I go to, or when I'm on Twitter and tweet chats or wherever, or interviews like this one. Exactly. At many of the schools I've spoken at, kids have come up to me and said, well, I didn't report it because I don't want to tell my mom or dad or sister or brother because I don't want to look like a wimp, or I don't want them to ask me, well, what did you do to get bullied, as some parents have wrongly done. So what we try to do is to, first of all, let kids know before any bullying occurs. So what this means is start talking to children at a young age about bullying and what happens. You know, if someone's mean to you, you know, and obviously give it to them in a context that they can understand and digest, you know, depending on their age, and that's obviously up to every parent. But to start young, I mean, because bullying can start in kindergarten. You know, it starts in little ways, and it escalates and grows into more violent terms by the time you get to high school. So it's, you know, if you start talking to your teen at age 13, I guarantee you it's too late. You need to start talking to them. I mean, there was a young girl who committed suicide at age 9.
Oh, my God.
So that's why it's simply important to first instill in your children a sense of self-esteem, that, you know, they're smart, they're kind, funny, intelligent, compassionate, you know, and teach them empathy and compassion, and let them know, though, it's okay to tell you if someone's bullying them, being mean to them, because they might not even understand bullying. Well, is that bullying?
Exactly.
Make it clear if someone is mean to you, if someone insults you, if someone hits you, if someone, you know, hides your school books, steals your crayons, you know, whatever it might be, say any mean behavior like that, tell us, you know, you can come to us, Mom and Dad, you know, and let us know about what's going on, and then let your child know that maybe you're bullied or a good friend of yours was. And again, explain the behavior of what happened and say, you know, yes, I had this one girl that always pushed me around, or this boy that always kicked me in class, or whatever it might be, or, you know, called me on the phone and called me bad words or something, you know. So give them context of what you're talking about, so that they understand that, and say you're not alone. And there are people in this world that are aggressive and negative, or they've had something bad happen to them, or they're insecure. So explain to them very strongly that it's the bully, the child exhibiting the mean behavior, that it's that person who has the issue, not your child who's being picked on, but it's the one being the bully. And so explain that to them and say, you can come to us and we'll take care of it, and we'll make sure it doesn't happen, and, you know, we'll do it in a responsible way, and, you know, and just let them know that it's not their fault, that no one deserves to be bullied or picked on, and then tell them that you'll get them support and help, and then let them know if they see other children bullying other kids to also let them know. You know, so tell them to not just be a bystander, as we call it kind of in the bullying and educational community, you know, not to be a bystander, but to be what we call an upstander, you know, and stand up for someone else and report it, and that is also just as important, to stand up for others and, again, have empathy and compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly.
And again, like when I talk at events, you know, I'll say to kids, I'll be like, who in here has been bullied? And, you know, they might kind of look around and, you know, and then I'll raise my hand. You know, I'll be like, I was, you know, and they'll be like, oh, and then all the hands go up, you know, including all the teachers and everybody else. You know, so then everybody looks around and goes, oh, we're all in the same boat. You know, we've all been picked on at one time or another, or we've all been witness to someone else doing it to someone else. You know, I saw that a lot in high school, and I would intervene and take a stand. Just go up to a kid I didn't even know and say, hey, stop, you know, picking on her. Mm-hmm. And usually that was enough to stop it. And we discussed that in the film Bullies and Friends. We show that scenario, and we actually have a court judge in the film, an exclusive interview with the judge who presided over the precedent-setting bullying court case that we document in the film. And the judge talks about that why the court case also impacted her personally was because it took even the judge back to her own childhood when she remembers a girl being bullied on a baseball field and, after school, and she saw this group of girls bullying this other girl and threatening her. And so the judge, when she was a child, just simply intervened and said, hey, stop it, leave her alone. And she didn't even know any of the girls involved, whether the ones doing the bullying or the target. And the bullies turned and left. And it's really powerful, like when the judge recounts that story in our film. And it really has an impact on the kids, as well as we have other teens in the film, including one of the girls who was brought to trial for bullying, who was arrested and charged with bullying. And she's in the film, and it was brave of her to step forward. And so she really gives great advice to kids on how bullying can affect everyone and how she wishes she didn't bully the girl who ended up committing suicide, and that's something she'll have to live with the rest of her life, even though she was found not guilty by the courts of the 3 girls put on trial.
Wow.
That's David, you had another question?
Yeah, I did. I'm just impressed on all the training that you have had in the field alone. What exactly is threat assessment?
Threat assessment is when you look at a situation and assess the threat level. Like, is it a minimum threat level, moderate, obviously, major, and make an assessment of what's going on, and then for each threat level, you have a course of action to take based on that. So it's assessing people's behavior psychologically, physically, and a situation, what is the threat level here, and going from that. Is it a group of people? Is it one individual? And what is the threat level of that individual? And all of that. And, I think you're referring to, when I used to do that for the Walt Disney Company. Yeah. Right, yes. When I worked in investigations there. And, so absolutely that was part of our work there in investigations, was to assess different threat levels and terrorism and things along those lines. And like I said, for every threat level, you already had a course of action and different resources and strategies and things you would physically implement to the situation.
Well,
yeah, and it's sad to say that schools have that too now because of, the shootings and stuff that go on there, that they have to, assess situations and teach the students and the teachers what to do in situations as that. And it's just, it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming.
Yes.
I don't even, I hate to even turn the news on. Just before we got on this call, there's a situation at Fort Hood again, and it just makes me think of all the situations that are like this, in the work area, but also in the schools. And it's so sad. I don't know why the world is coming to this.
Right, exactly. I mean, like one of the recent school incidents at Arapahoe High School, right, where there was a school shooter and, a girl was killed. And exactly. And so threat assessment is very important in schools. And, again, I do have schools that reach out to me, and might talk to me about a certain situation. Or, for example, at a New York City high school, unfortunately, they had a student commit suicide, a young girl. And so then they called me and said, will you come out to New York and speak at our high school here and, show segments of your film and all of that. And I was like, sure, we just have to work out travel, but, anywhere I can get to, I'll be there as much as I can. Or, I do Skype consultations as well and, or on the phone or, just however I can help. Because like you said, I'm like, I don't want to turn on the news and think, oh, well, I could have done something to help that. And I mean, so through our film, we know we're helping kids, and, you know, I'm just really humbled by the fact that at some of the schools where we've shown preview versions of the film, that a few of the students afterward at some of the schools have come up to me and said, you know, before I saw your film, I really was seriously considering suicide. You know, I had it all planned out, whether it was pills or whatnot, not to get too graphic with anything, but, and they said, but they were like, after seeing your film and seeing the devastation the family went through and seeing what a great person this girl was who took her life because of these other girls who were mean to her, and then also it's impacting them that they see one of the bullies in the film talking about how she wishes she could just take back her words and that she didn't know the situation was getting so out of control and certainly didn't expect to be named in this girl's suicide note as one of the reasons for killing herself. But anyway, just humbling when these kids tell me that now, due to the film, after seeing Bullies and Friends, that now they're going to seek help instead, and that they realize suicide's not the answer. They see that there is life outside of their school, you know, and that they also realize that they wouldn't be here anymore. And as odd as that sounds, like it's like, well, of course you wouldn't, right? Because you would. But a lot of these kids don't really understand that in the heat of the moment, right? Because oftentimes suicide is such a quick snap. It just, you know, when the stress level builds way too high, factored in with other things, that it's just, you know, they might plan it out for a while, but then when the moment comes, it is a quick moment overall, you know, and some of the kids that have considered suicide or whatever, they kind of, as they explained it to me, they were like, well, I figured it was a way to show them, like, are you happy now? And that, you know, at my funeral, I'd be like, yeah, so are you happy now? But they don't, you know, kind of take a time to process, yeah, but then you wouldn't be here, really. And, you know, then you're letting...
And there's no way to say to them, are you happy now? Because they're unfortunately gone.
Right. And they see... Right. You know, so you can understand that, right? Yeah. So and that's something, too, that a lot of adults don't really understand, because they're like, well, why are they killing themselves? Then they won't be here. But many of the kids don't actually grasp that fact.
Until it's too late.
Right.
And then they can't.
Right. So it's something that, again, through the film, that they see that, and it's like, oh, you know, and at other screenings, we've had some students run out in tears, like within the first 15 minutes of the film. You know, there have been a few of those instances, and it's like, I'll be like, whoa, what's going on, you know, and I'll go out with the teacher or counselor, whatever, and we'll just find, you know, that it was good in that it brought certain things to the forefront that then that student confesses, like, yes, or not confesses, but tells of that, yes, they're being bullied, or in one instance, a girl said, well, actually, a friend of mine is considering suicide due to being bullied, and, you know, that's why I ran out, because, you know, now I want to make sure to stop her and report it and all of that. Because a lot of the friends of the target being bullied, they're quite aware it's going on, and they, too, don't report it to anyone. They think they're being a friend to their friend by not reporting it, and obviously that's not the way to go either.
Right.
Or they're
afraid. They don't want to harm their friendship. You know, and I can understand that, because, I mean, think about it when you were in school. You know, oh, I'm going to tell my best friend this. Don't tell anybody, whether it was good or bad. And you don't, you know, and you don't think of the consequence if it's bad, if somebody is considering doing, you know, suicide. A lot of times they don't take those words to heart either. They'll think, oh, she's just talking because she's upset.
Exactly. I mean, that's a great point, and that's another thing that we try and get out there, as well as all suicide prevention groups work to get that very important fact that you said out there, that when people talk about, oh, I'm going to kill myself, you know, don't disregard it. That's usually the first hint, the first indicator that they are considering it. So don't ever just toss it off, get them some help. And, there is a 1-800 National Suicide Prevention Hotline number here in the United States that people can call. And it's on our Bullies and Friends website as well. So just let people know, and it's confidential. Yeah, 365 days a year number that people can call, as well as families or friends of people who are considering, or their friend has said to them, I think I'm going to kill myself. That friend can also call that suicide prevention hotline number to get assistance and information on what they can do.
Right, exactly. And it's funny because I just read something the other day that said when people, there's what is the word I'm looking for? A myth that anybody that's going to commit suicide will not talk about it. If they're talking about it, it just means that they're seeking help or they're just talking about it, when in actuality it's the reverse most of the time.
That is absolutely right. And, again, that's just why we try to, show in our film, and when I speak at events or anything on suicide prevention and bullying, that it's definitely important to listen, for those warning signals. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, tell us more about how you're using this film's work to assist in the anti-bullying legislation.
Right. We, reach out to different legislators that are sponsoring bills and what have you. And, for instance, there was a bill up for vote in the state of Maine, and that bill had been voted down by the House there in the State House in Maine like a year prior. And the congressman who was one of the co-writers of the bill, it was for anti-bullying in schools and anti-bullying legislation, they were trying to get the bill passed through again. And a local businesswoman heard me on a radio interview show, and next thing you know, they emailed me and called and said, will you come out to Maine, and we'd like to do a weekend citywide event on bullying prevention, and can you speak to the community, and because this bill is up for vote and we want to draw attention to it so the community will know that this is actually going on in their state legislation, and so that the community will call their local representatives and governor's office and what have you to say, make sure this bill goes through, because that's the only way, right, going to get government, some of them, to push things through. So, but without drawing attention to it, the community most of the time is unaware what's actually being drawn up and submitted to be passed through. So, anyway, the company sponsored me, to fly out from California, where I am, to Maine. And so, yes, we did a preview version film screening, and just a great audience with, students from all the different, high schools, middle schools. And then after the film screening, then myself and the congressman who was co-writer of the legislation, he and I both spoke to the audience, about bullying, bullycide prevention, and then the legislation up for vote, and then how they could contact their local officials in addition to this local congressman, saying they wanted the legislation passed. So we did that, and then also the next day it was like a 7-hour day-long event with music and kids performing songs that were very anti-bullying and very self-esteem based songs, and food vendors and booth set up, and then we all spoke on bullying. The congressman, as well as also the press secretary for the governor's office, came out, and we declared it official Bullying Awareness Day. So the mayor did an official proclamation, and I was just honored to be listed in the city's official proclamation for Bullying Awareness Day. And then we presented awards to the kids and all of that. And, you know, this is in the papers and all of that. And then through that, you know, when I flew back to California, 3 days later, they said the bill passed. You know, the same, you know, this bill that had been denied a year earlier. So, you know, it's things like that where, you know, I'll go out and help, you know, to support any legislation that's being proposed, drawn up, or trying to be passed through.
Yeah, it just, I wish it would be passed through to every single state without question. You know, it's just, okay, this makes sense. This is what we need to do, and this is what we're going to do right now, instead of having to spend hours and days and weeks and whatever getting petitions and going to different places and talking about it. It's just so, it's already out there, you know, in the public. Everybody knows what's going on, so just do it.
Right. I mean, it seems like it's an enormous thing, but, you know, with all of these issues, whether it's bullying, suicide prevention, or animal welfare and animal protection laws, you know, domestic violence initiatives, whatever, it's just, because then people get caught up in, well, do we want a federal mandate? Okay, let's put on a state level. And then at every state level, so you have different people in every state, and some actually get hung up a lot on from different government representatives I've spoken to and council people, that a lot of people get hung up on, well, define bullying. Well, we have to, you know, expressly put it in here if we're going to have legislation. And, you know, to that part, that's true. It's just that, like you said, it's kind of like, well, let's just get on board and do this, you know, or let's go with the best practice of another state. Look at what they have. Copy, paste.
Yep.
I mean, you know. Yeah. So, it's kind of like, let's all communicate. I mean, you know, I wish I could kind of be like, you know, a U.S. ambassador to bullying, or, you know, the bullying crisis, you know, and just be like, okay, what do you have, Michigan? Okay, all right. Well, here's you know, what they did in Maine. Why don't I put that over here? And okay, Florida, let's get on board. And you know, it's just, so many people are like, well,
sometimes they make things harder than they should be.
Right, you know, and I'm just like, let's pass at least the most minimum basic thing that we can all agree with, and then, you know, we can amend it from there. You know, because, I mean, like some states want to enact laws that hold parents accountable, and there's some things being looked at right now in Florida with Rebecca Ann Sedgwick's mom, that she's trying to get laws passed to hold parents accountable. And of course, and all the parents are like, hey, I don't, you know, I can't be responsible for what, you know, my daughter or son does in school or at home, or, you know, so you get on those fine lines. And of course, because it's like, well, how much can a parent do, especially if a parent's, you know, whether they're working a day job or just working as a full-time mom or dad, which is a job in itself, right? So it just, you know, so it's like, well, let's just pass the minimum basic things we can all agree on. What is bullying? And that, you know, the kids should be held accountable for their actions, and that all schools should implement a strategic bullying prevention program. Kind of like getting back to what we talked about with threat assessment. Like, let's instill threat assessment level and factor out what the threats are and how we're going to react to them, or take a proactive approach that if we assess a child's behavior to be aggressive, or there's, you know, they turn in their paper and there's odd writings going on, you know, that we immediately step in and get counseling for them, not just suspend them or something, you know, and then they come back with a gun and shoot everyone. You know, it's like do threat assessment and, you know, also address mental health issues, you know, which is also a huge component of this. And, you know, like some doctors have said on TV, you know, there is a stigma, as we know, and Glenn Close, you know, tremendous actress, obviously, speaks out about mental health with her organization she just formed. And, you know, she talks about how there's such a stigma to that word, mental health. I mean, we can go physical health, and everybody's okay with that. And then you go mental health, people are like, whoa, yeah. But so at schools, and how doctors are saying now, let's just kind of redefine it as brain health. Okay, let's just look at it as that. And so, yes, if a child is having issues, if they're being abused at home or elsewhere or by other kids, again, they're going to react, and sometimes it does lead to school shootings, and we address that for a little bit in Bullies and Friends as well. So, yes, schools can take these clues, and really if they just have a good threat assessment program and bullying prevention program, and then the state legislators get on board with, again, passing the minimum of that everybody can agree on, just so that we can take proactive or preventive measures to make sure that everyone is getting the help they need, both the aggressor and the target.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree with you 1,000%. You should just should take this podcast and send it to all of the people in government, let them listen to it, and then maybe a light will come on and they'll say, oh, yeah, it can be that easy. Let's go ahead and do that. So, yeah, that would be good. Now, you mentioned that there's a judge and one of the girls that were the bully from the other case that are in the film. Who else is in this film?
Townspeople that the situation affected, because, again, the story is about a 14-year-old girl who, after being bullied, and she was threatened with death by 3 girls at her school that told her they were going to kill her, that she committed suicide. She hung herself in her bedroom, and clearly just horrible. And in her suicide note, she named the 3 girls. And the incident led to a groundbreaking investigation that resulted in the landmark precedent-setting court case, where for the first time in North America, teens were arrested and brought to trial for bullying under the juvenile codes of criminal harassment and instilling threats upon someone with trying to have the effect to instill fear or bodily harm to the person. So in the film, like I said, we have the judge who turned down all other media requests, and we're just honored that she decided to be in our film, and we interviewed her at the courthouse in our chambers, and it just was an amazing interview, and just gave so much perspective to the case and bullying and, a personal story, like I said, of bullying. And we also have the mom of the young girl named Dawn Marie, and the mom, Cindy, is in the film and, talks about the loss that obviously no parent should ever have. And also a really emotional but effective and powerful interview with the younger brother, who was the one to find his sister in her bedroom. I mean, can you imagine? He went in to find her for dinner, and the result is what he found. On a cold winter night, went in there. It was a Friday night, and the family was upstairs waiting for dinner, and the daughter's bedroom was on the first floor, like a townhouse, and he found his sister in there, and from there, their lives are obviously never the same. And, the thing is, we expressly said, we do not want the brother in the film if he does not want to be in the film. We were just like, whoever wants to be in the film, because as it was, the mom of Dawn Marie was on the Oprah Winfrey Show, and that's how I heard of the story, because I saw it on the Oprah Winfrey Show. And the younger brother was supposed to be on the Oprah Show, but apparently he ran off stage before filming started. And, obviously it's traumatic for him, and he had to undergo counseling and all of that. I mean, that's, obvious. And, but after we were there filming for, a couple of weeks or so, in addition to the months of preparation beforehand. And so after a couple weeks of being there, and we had been with him and the mom, and, lunches, dinners. We took him snow tubing on the mountain up there where he was at, and you know, and then he came to us and said, you know what, I want to tell my story in your film. I want to talk about my sister, and I want to talk about what happened and everything also that went on at his school afterward due to what happened. And so, I mean, we were just like, are you sure? And, you know, we knew that the psychologist was aware, and, you know, and of course the mom's like, it's his decision, and because he hadn't even really sat down and discussed it with her. So, I mean, I must say it is, you know, a difficult day for him and an emotional day of filming, but, you know, he said that he felt better afterward because he was able to get it out and tell his personal story of what happened. And, you know, so we just kind of put the camera just out in front and just, you know, he just was kind of seated on a couch in a living room where we're filming, sort of a studio set up, and we just sort of, the camera just silently rolled as he just talked to us, as he would talk to anyone, you know, sitting in a living room, just, you know, so it's very powerful and impactful with kids at all the schools, as well as all the adults. I mean, you know.
I'm sure everybody there was, you know, very emotional while that was going on with him.
Yes, I mean, absolutely. I mean, when we filmed, it was just myself and my camera, my director of photography, and BJ, the boy. So it was just the three of us. And, you know, the mom was just kind of waiting elsewhere. And like we said, we just said, you know, however you want to talk, whatever you want to say. And, you know, we just kind of went from there, and he spoke for a few hours, really. And, you know, we took breaks whenever he wanted, you know, whatever he wanted to do. We're like, you can say as much as you want, as little as you want, or nothing, you know. But he was like, I'm going to say what I want to say, and this is what I want to do. And like I said, afterward, he was, you know, he was like, that was really a relief. And since then, you know, that's the only time he's talked about it. And, of course, a lot of media covered the case from far and wide, you know, CNN and everywhere else. You know, we're just so thankful. He was very brave in stepping forward and wanting to share his story. And like I said, I mean, it's just so powerful with kids at the high schools that, you know, it's not like a teacher standing there going, bullying is bad, and drawing it on a chalkboard, and, you know, putting a line through it, you know, bullying bad, you know. Not, you know, they're like, that doesn't even start to mean anything with them. But, you know, from hearing and seeing his experience and seeing it all through his eyes, it's truly impactful, and kids are like, you know, wow, now I get it. And kids who are bullying others, they too, after seeing the film, because we hand out questionnaires to all the students at the focus group screenings, and, you know, and the teachers look them over beforehand because we tell them to look for warning signs. But it picks up on that, and bullies, you know, kids who are bullying, they're like, well, now I'm going to stop bullying because now I see what's going on. And other kids will say to me, you know, I didn't even know what I was doing was bullying.
Right.
They're like, I don't know. I thought I was just having fun.
Teasing somebody or something.
Yeah, and then they go, and I really had to look at why I was doing it, and then maybe they realized that they were feeling insecure about themselves, or maybe because they were being, you know, emotionally abused at home or picked on, or maybe they were being picked on by another kid. So they said, well, if I'm going to be picked on, you know, I'm going to get out my aggression by picking on someone else, you know, and it's just this cycle that goes on. So in the film, like I said, yes, we have the brother. We also have a local reporter that covered the court case and how it impacted him, as well as, like I said, one of the girls brought to trial. Also, bullying experts like Dr. Michelle Borba, author of 23 books, and she was also a former educator, teacher, and she's a psychologist and, you know, noted expert, speaks everywhere across the globe, and whether for the Defense Department or for companies or schools. And So we're just really appreciative to her for being in the film, as well as we have the mom of a boy who was going to commit suicide. And it was after the suicide of Dawn Marie that boy came home, and he was like, when he heard about Dawn Marie's suicide, he was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened. And from there, you know, he could open up to his mom and dad. And his mom prevented his suicide by being aware, and when she was picking up his stuff, like in his bedroom and picking up the laundry and all of that, she saw this notebook kind of open, and so she looked at it, and good thing she did, because in the notebook he had written all the way down the page, I just want to die, I just want to die, I just want, all the way down the page. And so, you know, and he had been losing weight, you know, which is another indicator, as well as, you know, kind of gaining weight. You know, any of these behavioral symptoms are signs that something's going on, you know, whether it's bullying, physical, verbal, emotional abuse, or other types of abuse, or, you know, something is going on. But anyway, yeah, so she was able to prevent his death, you know, by being aware and all of that. And the suicide of Dawn Marie really impacted him as well, in that he saw that, again, suicide just wasn't the answer. And so that mom is in the film, and she really gives poignant advice as well to schools and parents, because, like, in her situation, the school didn't react to it. When the mom reported her son was being bullied and he, you know, criminally harassed, really, that the school didn't do anything, and so finally she just had to remove her son from high school, to which, as she says in the film, the school wasn't like, you know, how can we help you? What can we do? Instead, they're like, okay, well, like, have a nice day, you know.
That makes me sick.
Yeah, and again, so it's kind of like through these personal stories and of what's gone on, you get, because I wanted to show the perspective from everyone, you know, from parents who are affected by it, and then obviously the mom. And again, the family wanted their story told, so maybe really I should have started with that, because I always wanted to be clear when we do showings that the mom wanted the story to get out there, or the film wouldn't have been made. I mean, it's just that simple. Because I said, you know, I mean, you're on the Oprah show. Do you want to get this story out to a wider audience? You know, I'm an independent filmmaker with no budget, no funding, but I'm willing to spend my savings and everything else I have to get this story out to help save kids' lives. And she was like, yes, I do. You know, she goes, because that's the only way I think we can stop this from happening to another family and another child. So, and so that's what we did. And like I said, I just want to present that perspective, you know, so we had, like I said, from the legal perspective of the judge. And like I said, just having this judge who presided over this landmark case, and then again, having that girl who was brought to trial, and, you know, so many kids that are bullying learn so much from her, because again, they see that, wow, my behavior can lead to the death of someone else, and do I really want that to happen? You know, and obviously no. So, so we commend her for stepping forward, and yeah. So, like I said, we just kind of focus on that, and you know, different incidents, and provide solutions through what they're saying. You know, so this girl who was brought to trial tells kids, like, you know, this is why I think people shouldn't do this, and this is why I wish I could take back what I did, and if I had just done this, this, and this, you know, what happened wouldn't have happened, you know, and, of course, the advice from the mom. And, you know, so you get the full perspective of what was going on, as well as from the best friend of Dawn Marie. You know, so she speaks out and talks about all the different bullying that was going on, including physical girl fights, you know, where girls were physically pummeling each other, and the town had no idea this was going on. You know, we're talking about your regular small town, you know, situation, and no one had this, even an inkling of an idea that this subculture of, you know, physical girl fights and bullying and cyberbullying was going on. And so she brings total perspective to what was happening, as well as the police in the town that initially tried to cover up what happened, because one of the girls named in the suicide note was the daughter of a prominent police officer in the town. So initially, the police in that town, when they investigated, and here's the suicide note and all of that, they determined that, oh, well, just your bad luck. You know, your daughter killed herself, so, well, we're very sorry, and, well, that's about it. No crime has been committed here. And even though what had really been going on was serious criminal threats, where, again, you know, any adult saying this to other people, and the bullying was relentless. The threats were relentless. So it took a regional prosecutor, this female prosecutor that heard of what was going on. Then she was like, what? You know, and so she started digging into it, and, you know, so it took almost a year for charges to be brought by the regional prosecutor. So it actually was, you know, so the prosecution that brought charges, not the police department in the town, where some of the evidence went missing, being the interview tape of one of the three girls, the daughter of the police officer. So her interview tape went missing from the police station, you know, which we talked to the judge about as well. But, so it definitely was an extraordinary case, and it just really touched on every aspect, really, of the bullying situation. And like I said, we wanted to show what was happening both, you know, with boys that are being bullied and what's going on there, girl bullying, and then provide solutions, you know, where we have a top psychologist and educational expert in the film, as well as just the people that went through it and the kids themselves, you know, because there's not been a film out there that has one of the kids who did the bullying. You know, it's like, and if you don't have that part of the puzzle, in my opinion, as a film director and, you know, advocate, then I feel, you know, you're missing half the picture, you know, so you need to see what is going on. And, you know, and it's also remarkable that, oh, and just to say, too, the girl in the film is not the daughter of the police officer. The daughter of the police officer, she actually said she would be in the film. She was like, okay, yeah, and then at the last minute, her parents flew her out across the country to go somewhere else. So, but also in doing so, her parents then violated her probation order, so she never actually fulfilled her juvenile court obligations as part of her sentencing, because that girl was found guilty. But yeah, so we also kind of cover that aspect, and we cover the school aspect, and it was interesting because the principal of the high school wouldn't talk on camera, wouldn't do an interview. You know, they were like, well, we want to move on and focus on our athletic achievements at the high school.
Oh, my God.
And not on, you know, the death of this girl. You know, so, yeah, right? So just through that, you know, schools get it, too, when we show the film. Of course, usually, well, obviously, if those schools are calling me out, they're already addressing it, you know, for which I commend them greatly. You know, they're wonderful. But, you know, then they take that and maybe they talk to fellow educators, you know, to fellow principals or counselors and say, you know, we've all got to address this, or, you know, we need to have, you know, a county-wide meeting or whatever, school board meeting, or, you know, whatever it may be. But so schools see that, yeah, through this total inaction and no involvement or follow-up from the school, just how wrong it is, you know. And like that high school's reaction was just simply to expel all three girls named in the suicide note.
Yeah.
And, well, what good does that do, really?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, so there's, you know, they're not held to anything, and, you know, like the girl in our film, you know, so she's not ever, you know, she never was able to graduate high school. And like one of the other people in the film is when I learned that everybody was just expelled and just sort of out of hand, including the best friend of the girl, because they said that she was too emotionally unstable. So you're just expelled too. And so she was expelled because her best friend hung herself. When I learned of this, so I was like, well, this is ridiculous. I'm simply not going to just, So as a filmmaker / advocate, I then contacted the area legislator, so like congressperson for that area there with the Legislative Assembly, and met with him, and he was the former mayor of that town, actually. And so now he was in a higher position, and so I scheduled a meeting with him, and he's in the film on camera. And, I said to him, what's going on with these girls? I'm like, and he's like, well, I talked to the school people. They said they were handling it. And, so they're in the film. I informed him on camera that, well, no, actually, they were all expelled. And then you'll see his reaction in the movie where he's just like, what?
I'm sure his mouth fell wide open on that one.
It kind of did. Yeah, it kind of did. And he was like, what? And I'm like, yeah. And then I'm like, so these girls aren't getting an education now. And, including the best friend. And so I'm like, can they meet with you? And he's like, sure. Okay, but yeah, kind of stumbling over his words. He's like, yeah, absolutely. So then I got a meeting with the girls with him, and so the one best friend, she was admitted back into school, but now she had missed like a year of school and admitted back into a higher grade. So she totally was at a loss for where they were as far as curriculum or anything. So she was failing, and so she just sort of then just dropped out. They made up no effort to, they didn't take any effort to make up for the time she had lost, get her a tutor or, summer school or something to catch her up. They just sort of said, well, okay, we'll just throw you into the next grade. Good luck. And, so again, it's from these things that, I wanted the film to be full of informational, but not, full of information and be informational, but not be instructional, and so organically, kids and parents, community leaders, teachers, principals, schools are getting it because they see it. No one's standing there telling them this, and this. It is like, here you go. Here's all the perspectives. And, of all the different angles of bullying and teen suicide and what happened and why and how and the reactions from everybody. And so you look for yourself. How do you want to be? What actions do you want to take now proactively and then reactively to, maybe what's going on right now at your school or community or household, whatever it may be. So it deeply impacts people. And through a way that they all, can relate to different people in the film. And so definitely at every film screening, too, the questions just go on and on and on, like from the audience afterwards, which is great. What happened to this person? Why is that? What is this? And, so, I always try to, I go on. I've spent like 2-3 hours with school sometimes afterwards. So, and that's great. That's fine with me. So.
Yeah, now there's just so many more kids that you've just helped, even if it takes half a day, it's making a difference, and that's what matters. Now, this film is fully funded as far as the film has been made, and now you have the Indiegogo campaign going on to collect funds. Tell us more about what those funds are being used for.
Right. The thing is that the film is made only on a level of, okay, it's limited presentations and, limited DVD, and as far as, audio and video quality, it's just, there's limitations to that, and again, as we've talked about, I think on your other show, like in making this film, I sold my house to pay for the initial filming and initial production costs. What we need to do now is fund the post-production costs that will prepare the film for worldwide release for distribution. And the thing is, as people in the film industry know, but what many audience goers don't realize is that for a film to get seen worldwide, maybe for every, 100 independent films that are made, maybe 1 or 2 get selected by a global distribution company for worldwide release. And when we talk about worldwide release, we're talking about DVD production, Blu-ray, high-tech sound mixing, production quality, plus FCC requirements like closed captioning, different other regulatory things, clearances that you have to get, like for every news clip or something in a movie or somewhere, there's costs for that, music, just everything involved, and also to prepare a film for multi-platforms of distribution. Like with DVDs, it's like, oh, well, is this, for North America DVD players, or is this for European play? So you have to process it for that. Then it's like iTunes requires a different process than Netflix does. Then on HBO, video on demand. So all of those are what's called multi-platforms of distribution, because it's like what platform is it going to be shown on, and a film has to be put on all of those. And to do that costs a lot of money. And, like closed captioning alone can be anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000, because you have your transcriptions, all that, and different companies do that. And so this film, through the grassroots movement of this film, through the tremendous, overwhelming positive word of mouth from school to school, and the United Nations Association awarded it an Impact Film Award. And so normally an independent film has to, try and ship out their DVD to, 100, 1,000, whatever distribution companies, and be like, will you distribute my film? And it's a long, hard process. And, distribution companies will tell you, yeah, we get like 500 DVDs plopped on our desk every day. We're not even down to the first batch, and there's another batch the next day. Well, what happened with Bullies and Friends is through word of mouth, just kind of through advocacy work in schools and all of that, and, reactions on, and then it was spreading on Twitter and Facebook and everywhere, several distribution companies contacted me. I hadn't even sent anything out, or, we were still trying to put everything together, and we were actually still filming new segments, like adding the educational expert in there and all that. And so one of these distribution companies has the worldwide capabilities, for television as well as global. So we're not just talking North America, or, because there's different components of that. Some distributors only will distribute North America. Others are like, well, we're only North America and Puerto Rico. And then others are like, well, we're here in Europe. And then, eventually then you get to worldwide. So this distribution company is worldwide. But then comes, pages of requirements. And distribution companies do not fund that. And distribution companies do not just walk up and write you a check and say, here. So they're not providing any funds to the film. They're just like, we want to release your film, for their company. But the film has to provide all of the requirements for distribution, which means we have to take our original film footage, put it back into post-production to prepare it technologically for all of the multi-platforms of distribution, and then all the clearance things, and, copyrights and all of that, and closed captioning, and just everything else on board, different sound mixing, music mixing, across the board. And like I said, so it's an enormous amount of money, to about over $300,000 in cost. So what we're doing is, because we have no funding, like I said, I used all my personal resources and business loans and savings and selling my house to make this film to prevent bullycide. So we're reaching out to the global community, and, of course, because it's global fundraising is what it is. So for all of those schools, all those people that are like, we want to see this film, we want to get it out there, we want to see it at our local movie theater or have it on DVD. So this global fundraising, known as crowdfunding. So our global crowdfunding campaign is through the Indiegogo website, because Indiegogo.com is one of the two top crowdfunding platforms, where people can donate. And, of course, Indiegogo verifies every project, every cause that's raising funds on their site. And we went with Indiegogo because they're a secure platform, so that they're linked right with PayPal. So people's donations, go through PayPal, our credit card companies, and then into our cause account. And so, again, it's secure. You don't get on any, mailing lists or spam things or anything. It's just, that's why we went with Indiegogo, because we have our campaign page on their site in the film category. And, we have a link through our website at BULLIESandFriends.com and our 7-minute campaign video that outlines everything, as well as the campaign page outlines everything. And so, so this is what the funding is needed for. So we've broken down the cost, and so this campaign is for the initial $140,000 worth of costs, and then we're looking at trying to also get in-kind donations from different studios and whatnot to assist us with some of the different things with sound mixing and all of that. But so we're looking to, get this funding from everywhere, and anyone on the planet can donate, and you can donate anywhere from $1 and up, and for every donation level from $1 up, the film crew, the film team, all of us, there are gift rewards at every level, including you can pre-order the DVD, you can have the official film crew T-shirt. We have other things like you can sponsor a school Skype bullying prevention discussion, where I will be on Skype, and so you could have Skype hooked up in your school gymnasium or whatever, and in a big screen or whatever, or in a classroom, or wherever you want, an organization, boys and girls clubs, wherever, and so that's one of the reward perks, for a certain donation level that you get that gift to sponsor that. And in addition to that, like if you sponsor a school event, then you also get the additional perks that came before that, like, the T-shirt, etc., the DVD and all that. So again, there's also the opportunity where people can be listed as an associate producer of the film, co-executive producer of the film, as well as be in the film's credits, which will then get people their own Internet Movie Database page, because you just can't get an IMDb page unless you're part of a film or TV project. So again, it is all these different perks, as well as like the film's, official bracelet, and as well as school screenings as well, that when the film is completed, I'll fly out to your school, we'll do a presentation, and all of that, as well as screenings in your city. So like if a whole community got together and said, we want to do a screening, kind of like what the businesses did in Maine to fly me out. They kind of did the same thing. Just did this through our campaign. So you can sponsor an event, and of course you'll be acknowledged on stage, and so we have all kind of stuff, red carpet screenings, and just different things. And like I said, Skype chats for schools, or also just Skype consultations for teachers, educators, parents. Doesn't matter. There's a different category for that. Or filmmaker consultations. If a filmmaker says, hey, I want to know how to go about this or whatever, So just we try to think of all kind of different perks, that people will like, and we really work hard on them for every donation level, so that everybody's rewarded. And really, like our first 50 backers, they'll all get a surprise gift after the campaign is over, and everything. So, like right now, we just need people to go on and be early backers, because like in every category on Indiegogo, there might be like 40 pages for each category. And, you know, so when you start a campaign, you kind of sometimes land right in the middle at like page 25, 30, wherever. And so everybody's trying to move up to, you know, then be on like page 1 or 2 of whatever category they're under, you know, whether it's a book that they're funding or a film. And so that's the thing, too, that if people go to the campaign page and also share the link through the page by sharing on Facebook, Twitter, what have you, then that counts toward the Indiegogo's algorithm. And just yesterday I spoke on the phone with a really nice representative from Indiegogo here in California. And, you know, explaining that and saying that, people need to share through the campaign page. So it's kind of like if people just retweet it from another tweet, for those of us that are on Twitter. It doesn't count. It doesn't count as much that you need to actually like be sitting on the campaign page and then just hit share while you're signed into Twitter, and then it'll just tweet from the Indiegogo campaign page, and that counts on the thing. And you can see the number right there. It'll show you how many tweets. Like I think today we're near 900 Twitter shares, and you know, so you'll see it click up. So we're trying to get people to know that, because we had so many people retweeting from retweets of retweets. So we're like, no, go to the campaign page, you know, and tweet from there. Because the thing is, if we can get, you know, to page 1 and 2, then you know, people that regularly donate to film want to be involved in film, want to be in film's credits, or want to be involved with the film with an important cause, you know, like ours. That they'll be like, oh, they'll see it. You know, they won't not see it because it's on page 25. And, you know, from there, word will spread. As well as people, you know, we want to get it out there on Reddit and Instagram and Vine and all of that. And we talk about that and show that on the campaign page at Indiegogo.com.
Now, for anybody that's listening too, I mean, every dollar helps, and and if you're a student or if you're a teacher or anybody that's, you know, in a big place, I don't know how else to explain it, but if you collected $1 from each student, you know, what a big difference that would make, because how many kids are in schools these days? You know, there's a lot of kids. So that would make a big difference. And if you want to help, you know, fund this film and make a difference in somebody's life, that's all you have to do is go around and ask your friends for $1. Let your parent go on and, you know, put that towards the film.
Yeah. It's less than, you know, going through a local drive-thru and buying a soda at the drive-thru. I mean, it's less than that, and you can literally change lives.
Right.
Absolutely. So, you know, the thing is, it only takes about 5 minutes, and, you know, you just go on, and you can also donate anonymously, too. I guess I want to point that out, too. You know, so it's your choice whether you want, you know, your name listed, or, you know, or if you want a pseudonym, you know, whatever it is. But like you said, you know, I mean, every dollar makes a difference, and don't discount the fact that, oh, well, you know, my $5 won't help, because trust me, it will, because collectively together in this global fundraising campaign, it all comes together and it all makes a difference. And for every donator as well, that improves the algorithm that Indiegogo talks about, their algorithm to move our page forward, you know. And really a great sort of anthropologist, Margaret Mead, you know, she has a wonderful quote, and we actually have that on our campaign page, you know, where she says, you know, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. And that's so true, you know, for everybody working on causes or films that make a difference, you know, like this one. And, you know, we just have a great team as well on this film. So, you know, I definitely want to give out, you know, a shout out to them as well. Just great people that are working on this film. our associate producers and unit production manager and all of that. And we also have amazing film ambassadors that are also working to spread the word of the film. And everybody, is listed on our website, BULLIESandFriends.com, under our ambassadors page, and as well as we have a film sponsors page. And actually, I didn't touch on that. Part of some of the reward perks are they're for everybody. But if, for example, a company wanted to get word out that they support bullying prevention and just get word out about their company, whether it's a car repair shop, whether it's an ice cream stand, whether it's a restaurant, whoever it may be. For instance, we have a wonderful horse ranch that takes care of horses in Colorado, and they signed on as an official sponsor of the film. So it's like really for the donation of being a corporate sponsor, like that one is, I think, like at our $275 level, that's really it's less than you would pay to get, a commercial on TV or be printed in your local, newspaper or something.
Definitely.
And this is like you'll be on the film's official website, and you'll be, we're going to put our official film sponsors, in the film's credits. And, so it just, again, like I said, Hindsight Farms in Colorado, we appreciate them stepping forward and being one of our official sponsors, as well as Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers Chapel Music is one of our official sponsors. They've donated a song from one of their multi-platinum rock bands, so because we had no funding to cover this one particular song that we liked in one of their bands called I'm Just a Kid, which we felt symbolized some of the elements of our film, and the fact that this rock band had spoken out about the very incident that we document in the film, which is why we looked at their music. And, they donated one of, their hit songs. The band definitely, they're like, yeah, we want to donate to this film, their manager. And next, so we had to go to Warner Brothers. And, so Warner Brothers really came through. So thank you to them for being bullying prevention sponsors and donating that hit song to our film. So we just really have some great, tremendous people stepping up. And, so we're also reaching out to anybody as well that wants to donate additional things that we can add to our gift perks. So like music artists that want to donate concert tickets or signed CDs, whatever it might be, an iTunes download. So we're reaching out to that. Actors and actresses who want to donate, autographed pictures of themselves, or anything. Television shows that want to help sponsor something. So, anybody that wants to also donate, we can add gift perks to this and, and send out press releases and all that. And so, yeah, any other people in the entertainment industry, like I said, actors, actresses, TV shows, music artists that want to donate, perks to help us raise funds, we definitely welcome that, and we'll be reaching out to some of those people. Like I said, we just launched, so we're literally working around the clock. So we kind of have someone on the East Coast taking care of that time zone, and I'm here on the West Coast, and one of our associate producers will be working out of London in the UK starting next week, and so she'll be taking care of that time zone. Her name's Persephone, so she's fabulous. And, for our Indiegogo campaign video, we had an amazing composer named Catherine Graylish, who's here in Los Angeles, and she composed and scored and tracked all original music for our Indiegogo campaign video. And she was just nominated just the other week for 2 International Music Awards for her scoring for another film called All Things Hidden. And anyway, yeah, so I could just talk on and on. But, yeah, so we just have amazing people and amazing people like you and David. And, so Pam, I really appreciate it and all your show support.
You're very welcome. It's the least I can do.
You're very welcome.
I want to see this film go out to all schools and communities and youth and across all countries, because of course this isn't something that just happens in the United States, and it just needs to be out there, and I'm going to do everything possible that I can to help you with that.
Oh, well, I mean it just means so much to me. Thank you. Truly.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. And for our listeners, too, even though there are perks, if you choose not to take them, you can do that and still donate. Because I know that people sometimes don't want to take the perk. They don't want to take away from their donation. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
I'm trying to explain that the right way.
Yeah. I know.
And really, and like at the dollar level too, but I mean, anybody that contributes can do this, but just even for those that are like, okay, well, I just have $1. Great. We have, we'll give you a shout out and everything else. Plus, they can take a, right, as we called it, selfie, but a good selfie, a nice bullying prevention selfie.
Please.
Yes. And like we say on the campaign page, right, keep it nice and stuff like that. And write their own sign, and it's there on our campaign page. We go, write your own sign, and you can be creative. You can sit there with your dog, and your dog can hold the sign, or you can hold the sign. And so anybody can do it, you can, sit at the beach and hold the sign, or I don't know, sit wherever, you want, stand, whatever, stand on your head, and have the sign, and, and it says, I just donated to Bullies and Friends Indiegogo campaign to help stop bullying, join me, and we will tweet out, Facebook out your selfie with that sign, everywhere through all of our ambassadors and filmmakers, so I don't even know, over 50,000 Twitter followers amongst us all collectively, and, our Facebook page, and we'll put it on our website. We'll include it maybe in some of our newsletters we'll be sending out. So it's really cool. So, like, if a school, right, and like you were saying, and every student says, okay, and everybody contributes $1, and they can all take a selfie of themselves with the sign, and, they could take it as a big group and all 30 kids have the sign, whatever it is, or just one sign and all 30 kids, and we will give you that shout out, across all social media and everywhere and on our website. So just really cool ways that everybody can be involved with bullying prevention, so everybody that says, oh, yeah, I want to help stop bullying and Bullycide, but it seems so enormous. What can I do as one individual? Again, you can do a lot, and it just through this film, we'll, get your support out there through this film to reach kids, where it's already having an impact. And like I said, we appreciate the United Nations Association, giving us that honor and of the Impact Film Award. And like I said, we just now need those funds to get into post-production to, load all the original film footage and just get it through all the technical requirements and the editing bay and the film editors, and then moving it into sound mixing and then music scoring and everything else, and then all the closed captioning and the film credits and the words on screen and, all of that. It's enormous, in addition to, we have a clearance person who has to go and get clearances and permissions and funds for that, and so it's a lot of money, but we stretch every dollar, and like we show on our Indiegogo campaign page, our budget is less than half of other relative documentary films out there at the feature film length. So it's, we creatively stretch every dollar.
Anybody that goes to Indiegogo and types in Bullies and Friends, watch the video, read what it's about, and if you only caught part of this interview or something, and or take it to school. Everybody's got smartphones these days, and you can show them on there and what it's about and what you can do. And there's just so many ways of spreading the word and trying to collect funds for this. It's just endless. So I hope that each and every person that's listening right now will at least contribute $1, if not more, and help out and share it with your your family, your friends, emails, on your Facebook status. You post about bunny rabbits in taking a bath, in a duck pond or something. Do something like this. I've got it posted on my personal page. I have it posted on my Take Two Radio page, and initially I was tweeting it just from Take Two Radio, but then I thought, well, why not through my other show that I have, Take Two Radio Music, and I started tweeting it there because, it doesn't matter where you tweet it or post it or email it. Everybody's going to see it and know that it's not something that's just like, oh, buy my record. This is something that's going to make a difference in a lot of lives.
Yes.
Right, and yeah, thank you so much. And we also have our Facebook page, reminded me. We're on Facebook at Bullies and Friends Film, so Bullies and Friends Film. So also just if you go on there, give us a like so that all our posts and updates, as well as we provide like bullying prevention news and things going on across the globe on bullying, we post it on there. Obviously right now we have a lot about the campaign, but we have bullying prevention tips and all that as well. And yeah, and like right now on our Facebook, we have a thing where one of our posts in the next, couple days, we're going to pick one of those, and everybody who's shared, from that post, everybody who's shared that post, we're going to pick one of those people, and they'll get like one of our, we're going to give them a free Bullies and Friends bracelet and things like that. So it's going to be one of the posts. So if you just share all the posts, you're good. And you'll be in the drawing for that. So, like when we posted about this interview, we're like, this could be the post. This could be it. Share it.
Yeah.
But so we'll have fun, fun things like that too, and just news on everything that we're doing and updates on the film and news on the production of the film and how we filmed it and everything from that. So you go on Bullies and Friends.
And they can sign up. They could sign up for your newsletter, too, at bulliesandfriends.com website, right?
Yes.
You still have that?
Yes. Thank you. Yes, we do. Thank you for that, yes. So we have that. In addition, that to people that hand me their business cards wherever I go, I'm like, put me on your list, okay? So, yeah, definitely they can sign up through the website at bulliesandfriends.com, which will direct you to all of these wonderful things like our Indiegogo and the Facebook page and Twitter and all that.
Yes, and Twitter is at Bullies and Friends, but the word "and" is not spelled out. It's just the N, the letter N, so Bullies and Friends. And follow them. You can also follow Cassidy at Cassidy MCM, short for McMillan. Couldn't put the whole name out there, huh?
No, can't. Yeah, so.
They cut you right off.
Yeah,
but
well,
give her a follow.
Bullies and Friends. We're like, we were kind of like, what should we do? Like BLLI? No, okay, so. And they were like, look, we can do Bullies and Friends. We're like, oh, okay, there we go. So.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah.
So, well, I want to thank you so much for spending time with us today and explaining everything and talking about such a wonderful project that like I said, I need to see this everywhere. And I would love to see people, as I'm walking down the street or in a store, have a Bullies and Friends bracelet on. So that would be wonderful. And my mind is thinking as this interview is going on about the different things I can do. So I have an idea which I will email you about, and we'll take it from there.
Awesome. Great. Yay, Pam. Yay, David. And I can count on you.
But thanks again, and I wish you only the best, and anything you need, I'm here for you.
Thank you both so much, from the bottom of my heart and my film team's heart as well. So we really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Yes.
You're very welcome.
Cassidy, God bless you.
Oh, God bless you, too. Thank you, my friends.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Talk to you soon.
Yeah.
Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, just to go over real quick, again, the website is Bullies and Friends. I'm trying to find it. bulliesandfriends.com. Facebook is facebook.com/Bullies and Friends Film. The Twitter is at Bullies and Friends, and Cassidy is at Cassidy MCM for McMillan. The Indiegogo, Indiegogo campaign, if I can think straight, just go to Indiegogo.com. It's INDIEGOGO.com. Type in Bullies and Friends. It comes right up. You'll see it. It's in purple. Watch the video, read about it, and then go ahead and make your donation. Pass it along to your friends and family, even to strangers if you feel that strongly about it. Pass it along to anybody that you can. And this movie will get funded relatively quickly if we all do something. So
and if
you only have
cry
a buck,
your eyes
that
out.
buck is it. Yeah, definitely. It's very heartfelt and heartwarming.
Yeah.
So to see it, it's just, gosh, I think about it and want to cry. So everybody knows somebody that has been bullied, or yourself, might have been bullied. So go ahead and help somebody else out besides helping yourself. It'll get you information that you could use as well. And with that, I'm going to thank Cassidy for joining us, and thank you, David, for joining me today. We'll be back again on the 23rd, and I'll be posting that on Take2Radio.com for our next show relatively shortly. And with that, I'm going to say thanks again, and we'll talk again soon. Have a good night, everybody.
Take care, everybody. Be safe.
Yes, definitely. Bye-bye.
Bye.